Breaking news, the daughter of James Comey, Maureen Comey, fired by the Trump DOJ. You know this woman right here, the head prosecutor for Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and Sean P. Diddy Combs, got fired today by Pam Bondi. Whoa, shocking. Let me share some information about this firing, and then we will further discuss. Check it out.
Maureen Comey, the daughter of the ex-FBI director James Comey, has been fired from the U.S. Attorney's Office there in the Southern District of New York. Remember, she just worked on the Diddy trial. She also has worked on the Epstein case. The Associated Press has it as follows, that the DOJ has fired Maureen Comey. Now, she is the daughter, like I said, of James Comey. She was a prosecutor in the federal cases against Sean Diddy Combs and Jeffrey Epstein. That's according to two people familiar with the matter telling the AP that today. There was no specific reason, though, given for her firing from the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Southern District of New York. Now, her termination comes shortly after she prosecuted Combs, who was acquitted of sex trafficking and racketeering charges. The rapper was convicted of those lesser prostitution-related offenses. Remember, he'll be sentenced in October. Now, the DOJ recently appeared to acknowledge the existence of an investigation into James Comey, though the basis for that inquiry is unclear. Remember, he was abruptly fired by President Trump in Trump's first term in 2017. So, this might be news to you. Maybe you don't even know. James Comey has a daughter who worked in the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Southern District of New York on very high-profile cases, like the Sean Diddy Combs case, like the Epstein saga. So she was an assistant prosecutor there in the office. Remember, that was one of the office's most costly prosecutions, and they, according to our legal experts, really came up short. This was a very expensive prosecution, and they did not get a conviction on the most serious charges for Diddy. Remember those charges of sex trafficking and racketeering. He was acquitted on those charges, though Diddy, remember, was convicted of lesser prostitution-related offenses. So, Maureen Comey worked on that case. If you were following our coverage of the Diddy trial, and we had that static shot, that camera angle, that vantage point outside the doors of the federal courthouse in Lower Manhattan, you would, from time to time, when court was over for the day, see the prosecutors walk out and go home. I remember watching live, seeing Maureen Comey walk out with some of her colleagues after trial was done for the day. Now, the Associated Press has it as follows. There was no specific reason given for her firing. So the AP and others will have to do some more reporting on that, on whether or not this was, warranted, for cause. What? Why was she fired? So remember, just last week we brought you the news. The DOJ appeared to acknowledge the existence of an investigation into her father, James Comey, though the basis for that inquiry is unclear. Remember, the DOJ also acknowledging that they were investigating former CIA director as well, James Brennan.
So, let's talk about Diddy's case, because we covered the Sean P. Diddy Combs Rico case. He beat a Rico. She was the lead prosecutor in the case, along with other prosecutors, but she was the head one, and he beat a Rico where no one beats the feds. But some way, somehow, Diddy did it. I think that's part of it. Incompetence. She didn't know how to prosecute a case right. Diddy's case. We're all shocked to the core that no co-conspirators were brought to the stand when it comes to Diddy. KK, D-Rock, Fahim. How are you going to have a Rico when you don't bring other people? You heard from other witnesses in the Diddy's case. I mean, it's clear Rico, clear as day. And there were so many elements and so many crimes, yet Diddy's not convicted on Rico. She's prosecuting the case. Let's talk about Epstein. A lot of outrage, as you saw in the previous clips. She's probably the scapegoat here, maybe, right? We still don't know what happened to Epstein with the files, lots of records. DOJ's kind of saying, we're not going to look into this. Trump is saying we're not going to look into this. Who cares about Epstein? Who cares about Epstein? A lot of people calling for an investigation. So, she gets fired. Is it because of Epstein? Is it because of Diddy? Is it because of Ghislaine Maxwell and her handling of her case? She got 20 years, though. She got convicted. It seems like the Trump DOJ is also cleaning house around the country, getting incompetent prosecutors or prosecutors that aren't aligned with their philosophy. Or, ladies and gentlemen, does this have anything to do with James Comey? James Comey, the former FBI director. That's his daughter right here. So the DOJ is just like, we're getting rid of Comey because maybe down the line, James Comey gets prosecuted, as we heard reports that a couple of these people like Brennan and James Comey are under federal investigation. Well, maybe they get rid of her because they have to, because it'd be like a major conflict of interest if she worked for the DOJ and they prosecuted James Comey for crime. So I think it's a combination of it all. And they just don't want the Comeys in those federal offices anymore. Just the handling of cases, maybe hiding, obscuring information, lying, not competent to do their job. So we'll follow this case closely. Will it affect Diddy's case whatsoever? I'm not so sure. I don't know. What's going to happen with all these other so-called indictments and co-defendants? Do they get prosecuted? Diddy, at sentencing, does he get a slap on the wrist now? We shall see. Sub to the channel, hit the notification button. Comey's fired. We'll talk soon. JLR investigates. Stay tuned.